Welcome into the PHNX Suns podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Lindsey Smith here with Saul Bookman, Espo, and Gerald Bourguet.
If they only knew what we talked about before the show started.
Honestly, you guys, I'm so glad our mics are muted. It is such a mess.
I'm hot just like an oven.
For your loving.
Happy Monday, you guys. Today's question of the day to start the show is, y'all right?
Not after
Not
what
after what we were just talking about. Shane just informed us.
Oh, God.
We're going here.
Shane just informed us that there was such thing as sexual bears at Build-A-Bear, and then I looked it up on the internet, and there it is. They celebrate Valentine's Day.
Didn't we just have this conversation literally 20 seconds ago that no, we do not need to bring this up?
I want to bring it up. I want to put the people in charge of what they listen to.
Happy Monday, y'all.
Hello.
Well,
oh, my God.
I'm good. I almost died of heat stroke yesterday fixing my dumbass fence, but yeah, I'm here.
I thought you were watching the Build-A-Bear promo video. I almost died of heat stroke.
All right, moving on.
I'm good, Lindsay. Thank you for asking.
I'm glad you're good because not a lot of people are good.
God, everybody's choosing violence.
Negativity at an all-time high.
Ooh.
Says who?
And it ain't slowing down anytime soon. The Athletic's John Hollinger said about Deandre Ayton, quote, "I think it's more likely than not that he's in a new destination next season, especially if the Suns can work out a sign and trade that brings back some value." So let me ask you one more time. You all right?
People are dumb.
Well, this doesn't seem all that unexpected with everything we're hearing. It's just another voice chiming in saying, I talked to my sources and they're saying something similar to what we've already heard. And Hollinger, yes, worked in a front office with Memphis, so he has sources that are beyond some other people, I'm sure, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's not anything that really bothers me any more than where we've already been at. Like, look, I want to clear up some Deandre Ayton hysteria today because it seems like with every new report, we go through the same cycle, and we should probably get used to it because it's going to happen multiple times before free agency starts.
Just embrace the hysteria.
Don't embrace. Stop choosing violence.
Got him.
You were close. But look,
I was going to say, good luck with that goal of yours because
I know.
Saul won't let it happen, and neither will half of Suns Twitter.
No, but here's the thing. The Suns are still in the driver's seat if they want to keep Deandre Ayton. They can match any offer for him as a restricted free agent, which would be up to 4 years and $131 million. They can offer more than any other team, which would be up to 5 years and $177, or even on a 4-year deal worth $136.6 million. Letting him walk for nothing doesn't make sense. And if he leaves, it's coming through a sign and trade. So, they are still in the driver's seat. And if I'm the Suns, I'm okay with reports like this circulating, especially if you do intend to keep him or to match him. Let other teams think that he's available. Let them make a 4-year offer that's worth less than what you can offer him. That lets you off the hook if you do intend to keep him. Like, if I'm James Jones and I want to keep DA, I'm happy with these reports circulating.
But doesn't it also hinder your ability in sign and trade talks, though? Because now it's tougher to bluff that, we're gonna match him. And they may be more likely to go, yeah, I don't see that happening. Everything is saying you won't. So here's an offer, but it may not be the best offer you can get out of it.
Not at all.
Why not?
I don't see that at all.
Because you're out there, you're saying, and multiple sources are saying they don't want to keep DA. He's likely going to be elsewhere.
Cool.
So are you saying that the Suns are going to get offered less?
There was also,
simply because they don't want him?
There was also reports out there talking about Kyler might not play for the Cardinals again after this season because of what's going on in the offseason. Like, who cares?
Yeah, but
it's all rumors. It's all bullshit.
They want to pay him the money. Everything we've heard is that the Suns are hesitant to pay him that kind of money. So when you go into a negotiation, if your whole point is you're trying to sign and trade him, you're going to wind up, I think, with less leverage to actually make that deal.
No, okay, sign him to your shitty offer sheet. And for $20 million a year or 25 or 30.
It's going to be a max.
Okay,
offer
cool.
that
But let's just say it isn't. Okay, let's play your little methodical game.
Nobody's
about
signing him to a less than a max offer
Okay,
sheet.
well then the Suns are going to keep him. There's no way.
I don't.
There's no way. And you think a team that really values DeAndre Ayton and wants to give him as much as they possibly can is just going to be like, oh, you called our bluff. Okay, we're out. Like, no.
No,
They're
it's
gonna
called
still
a
try to sign and trade.
negotiation in that window. And I'm saying that they might not offer you as much because they don't believe you're willing to commit max money to DeAndre Ayton. And everything I'm hearing, and you see that the smoke, there's fire there. I don't think the Suns really do want to pay him. If they wanted to, they just would have done it last offseason, saved the dog and pony show, and not had to deal with any of this shit.
That's a valid point, but I do also think they did not want to commit that 5-year designated rookie extension to DeAndre Ayton. They have one already with Devin Booker. If they'd have done that with DA, you cannot trade for a superstar that's on that same deal. So I think if you look at them not dealing a first-round pick at the trade deadline, if you look at saving that second designated rookie max extension spot, I think it maintains their flexibility, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to trade him or don't want to trade him, but they have that flexibility where if this situation does turn south, they can trade for such a player. It's not likely with sign and trades, as we've talked about multiple times on this show. But I think if you're approaching this summer as, yes, we want to sign and trade DeAndre Ayton, then I think you're right. It could hurt their leverage. But if you're approaching it as we're going to do what's best for us, and if you make an offer, a 4-year max that's worth less than what he's going to expect from us, like, go ahead. We will match that, and then we can trade him down the line.
Because he becomes even more valuable, especially when you get to down the road, because his contract's not as heavy, and you can still trade him for valuable pieces coming back because his value is probably going to be worth more than the contract.
You can't deal him for a year, though.
So
You're
what?
locked in.
So you hold him at a good rate
if the
for a
Suns
year.
want him, they're going to sign him to the 4-year max that they can offer him $5 million more before you get to an offer sheet. And it gives you the flexibility to flip him this year if you decide that things have gone sideways. So if their whole plan is to bring him back, they're going to sign him to that 4-year max where they can pay him more money than anybody else can.
But I think what you're missing here is like the Suns are not, they're not in a take it or leave it situation. They can go both ways with this. They don't need to get rid of DA. They don't need to get a sign and trade. They can live either way. Like, they're going to be okay either way. Now, in my opinion, I think they're going to be way better off if they keep DA than trading him, because I just don't feel like what they're going to get back in return is going to be valuable enough. But okay, worst case scenario, they have to hold on to DA. I don't think that's a horrible scenario. And trading him, if you get the right pieces back, okay, that's what you wanted to do. You didn't want DA in the beginning. All right, you're going to be fine. I think this is almost in everybody's minds, just like it's ironic that it's DA that we're talking about, because half the people hate him, half the people love him. And I think in this scenario, either way you go, half the people are going to love it, half the people are going to hate it. The Suns are really in a no-win, no-lose situation.
And I agree with you. The best course of action, like we said all along, is for them to keep him, to sign him to that deal. I'm just saying, when I look at everything we've seen reported, that I don't feel like it's real favorable for the Suns right now, or for those of us that think that they should keep him.
I think the trouble you might run into if it comes down to this situation where they match an offer for him and can't trade him for a year is then you have to bridge that gap of, okay, like, we can't let this become a toxic situation, because then when we want to trade him down the line, that hurts his trade value if everybody knows this relationship has run its course and we're just biding our time to trade him. If you do sign him and keep him, whether it's matching an offer or just re-signing him outright, you need to mend those bridges, which we've talked about multiple times. You need to put aside whatever happened in Game 7 on the sidelines, behind the scenes, all that stuff that we've only been able to speculate about, and overcome that. And I think this group can do that. But I also do want to clear this up, because I keep seeing this opinion being touted that the Suns are choosing a 37-year-old Chris Paul over DA. These situations are completely independent of each other. Like, this is not about choosing Chris Paul over DA. This is about not being certain that you want to commit $30 million a year to a guy who, to this point, has not proven he can be a primary or a secondary option. And we can talk about that later. We're going to do a Bourguet breakdown later in the week about that very situation. But, like, this is not about Chris Paul, and they're not choosing Chris Paul over DA by not offering him a 5-year max.
It could be about moving that window up, though, like trying to find somebody that fits more with Devin and less about Chris Paul, just trying to find that guy that may be closer to that prime than DEA is right now.
If they don't get a
what we're looking at.
superstar in return, or not in return, but if they don't get a superstar in the offseason and you trade DA.
Oh, fans are going to be livid about that, too.
Shit, I just completely think you fucked yourself. And now Chris Paul is almost a useless chip in your arsenal because you're going to make the playoffs, but you're only going to be maybe a 6-5 seed at best. And what do you have to show for it? Nothing. And a big horrible miss on your first overall pick, which is something you talked about in one of your articles about. That's basically admitting that you struck out. And I think they know that now. I mean, it's pretty clear and obvious, but when you draft somebody number 1 overall, you draft them thinking that they're going to be around for 7, 8 to 10 years. You give up on them after 4. That's just not a good.
To be fair, it was a different guy that drafted him, and I think that comes into play here depending on which avenue they choose. But you're right, as a franchise, it's admitting that your team made the wrong choice with the number 1 pick.
2/3 of the people that helped make that decision are still there, and James Jones and Robert Sarver. Now, it may only be 1/3 by the end of the month, maybe, but right now, 2/3 of the people that were in that room that helped make that decision are still there. I think that's scapegoating as well in that case, too. Not you, but just in general, like, organization had a misstep. I don't think they struck out. They didn't take Marvin Bagley.
No,
one.
Right.
They're making the choice to move on. Where there's still a lot of value in what Deandre Ayton brings to a team.
I have a question. So we've talked a lot about signing DA to a 4-year max, and the Suns can offer him more money than any other team. We've also talked about matching any offers that come his way. Do you think that? Is it just a matter of if DA is willing to sign the offer that the Suns make him? If somebody offers him, instead of the Suns matching it, could they just offer him something separate without matching it? And if DA agrees to sign it, does that still work, or does it have to be a match?
Once he officially signs that offer sheet, then the Suns have 2 days to decide whether they want to match it. And that's the problem that people don't realize. The Suns have a ton of leverage here because free agency talks start July 1st. The moratorium starts, I think, July 6th, or the moratorium ends July 6th. So the Suns have 2 days after July 6th to officially match. And while they don't do that, that keeps the other team's salary cap situation in limbo. It has Deandre Ayton's new contract figure on their cap sheet, which means they can't make any other moves. So for 2 days, the Suns could completely tie up another team's salary cap space and basically screw them over from getting other deals done.
So then I guess what is the likelihood that a team would offer DA something, knowing
happens.
that?
I think it's very.
But like a lot of
likely.
teams, or like 1 or 2 are we talking here?
There's
You'll have
cap
suitors.
space.
Yeah.
Like it's the Spurs, the Pistons,
Pacers,
all the good teams.
The
Blazers are close.
Could make the money happen. So there'll be teams. I think 1 or 2 teams will be hot on him, and one will offer him the max at least. But he could say, "Hey, I've got this offer sheet. Do you want to give me that 4-year with the extra $5 million?" Him and his agent Bill Duffy could play that off each other before he signs the offer sheet. That could happen.
Which, in my opinion, I think that's the better play here for the Suns. Instead of matching something directly, just offering him the 4-year max with the extra money that they can put in there. I know they're not going to do the 5-year, but then it gives them more flexibility this season to move.
Because I think the Suns are, and I know Espo is 1,000,000% on board with he's going to get the max from every team that offers, which I'm not completely off, but you are also maybe hedging your bet that maybe somebody won't, and they'll offer him a few $1 million less per annually, and then you can match that at a lower salary. Could you not?
You could. I mean, you could definitely. If any team offers Deandre Ayton less than the max, the Suns would be beyond toxic to not match and let him walk for nothing. Like, I still don't see, even if another team offers a 3 or a 4-year max with like trade bonuses and a player option and all these things that de-incentivize the Suns from matching, they would be crazy to just let him walk, because with their salary cap situation, you're not going to find a replacement on the free agency market, and this like free agency class isn't good. So they would be screwed if they just let him walk. I don't see them doing that. The question is, Lindsey, like you're saying, whether they offer it outright, have a little bit more flexibility to trade him sooner than having to wait that full year if they match somebody else's offer. I would be shocked if another team even offered less than the max, because the Suns would be stupid not to match it in that case.
Manny C in the chat, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but says Ayton plays like a swole Dragan Bender.
Oh.
I don't remember Dragan Bender getting double-doubles in the NBA, even when he was playing on a shitty roster. And this is from the mayor of freaking Bender Island. So, like, I was his biggest cheerleader, and I even admit he sucked, you know, like.
Yeah, DA he's both undervalued and overvalued, and because Saul, you've talked about this, how drastically split the fan base is in their opinions on him, and that's what drives me crazy about this whole conversation. Is it's very rarely can we find a happy medium between being realistic of what DA can do and can't do, and what he might be able to do and what he might not be able to do. And I think, you know, we always throw this other stuff in there, like, oh, they're choosing Chris Paul, or oh, like Mikal Bridges never gets slandered. Mikal Bridges isn't asking for a max contract. He got signed to a bargain deal. Like, it's different levels. And I think with DA, your best case is still bringing him back and helping him blossom into a player who can create more of his own offense.
Yeah, look, I don't think the front office gives a crap what any of the chatter from any of us or any of these reports is. They're locked in what they think about Deandre Ayton. And it's a staring match right now. Does somebody blink? What do the Suns really want to do? Is it move on from Deandre Ayton? Well, then they'll try to negotiate the best sign and trade. And if it's not there, maybe they will just match and try to find that deal later on and deal with whatever. But the thing you can't have happen is have a mini Markieff Morris situation where you bring this guy back and he napalms your locker room. And all of a sudden, what could still be a team contending for the Western Conference Championship or a title is now trying to put out fires in their own locker room because they've done that.
I don't think Ayton would handle his business the same way. He's not that kind of guy. His DNA is not like that.
And he loves some of these guys in this locker room. Like, him and Mikal are like BFFs. Like, him and Devin get along really well.
Did that stop him from yelling at Monty?
I mean, in the heat of the moment, things like that happen.
Yeah.
How many times have we all yelled at each other?
That's not a toxic individual. Like Markieff Morris, the more I have had trouble ever since fucking high school.
I get that.
I'm not going to sit here and listen to that. Like, DA's not that kind of a guy.
I wasn't saying that he'd be that guy, just that type of situation. And the heat of the moment is the entire season. It becomes a pressure cooker in a locker room if somebody's not happy.
Game 7 is not the same as the rest of the season, though.
You guys can sit there and say it's not possible, but there were those reports that he was saying he wanted out.
It's not possible that he's going to end up like Morai. I will say that.
It is possible that he becomes the locker room problem if they bring him back with the intent that they don't really want him, they want to move him. And they just matched it because they couldn't get the value they wanted.
I disagree, but okay.
Goran Dragic was the nicest guy in the fucking world. Like, one of the coolest human beings you've ever met. Genuinely nice, a good human being, and he napalmed a locker room. So don't tell me DeAndre Ayton is incapable of it.
He's incapable of it.
I don't know that I'm going as far as he's not. I don't think he's incapable of it, but I just don't see it being that drastic of
I think
an issue if the Suns were to keep him.
I think DA can separate his teammates from the coaches all day long.
The other thing that kind of came out of this article, once again, is the conversation around DA playing video games. Is this something, nothing, or everything to you guys?
Absolutely nothing. He's 23. I don't give a shit how long he plays video games, any of that. That did not impact his basketball game in any way. I'd much rather have him do that than being James Harden and getting lap dances till 4 a.m. I don't care if he's sitting at home playing video games.
Listen, to Espo's point, none of us know what the hell these players are doing 24/7. And to act like that because DA said or it was found out that he was playing video games at 2 o'clock in the morning, that means all of a sudden that, that's the reason why he's so inconsistent. It's because of this, and this. Like, we have mountains and mountains of people in the NBA that just go crazy. Like clip number 1, Shane, play it.
Oh, we got clips.
Anybody tell you that I miss practice? If a coach say I miss practice and y'all hear it, then that's that. I mean, I might have missed one.
That's practice.
We talking
Allen
about
Iverson
practice?
talking about practice, not wanting to practice, hates practice, but yet he's one of the best guards of all time. Like Michael Jordan was in Atlantic City during the Eastern Conference Finals at 4 o'clock in the morning, still managed to ball just fine.
Who was the guy that was like, I don't like lifting weights. Them shit's heavy. Something like that.
Oh,
You guys remember that?
It's probably Kevin Durant.
That was hilarious.
There's even a story about Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan playing 48 holes of golf before Game 4, and then Michael dropped 55 on the Suns the next day. Like, dude, who gives a shit? Like, I don't care what they do at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Gerald does.
I really
Gerald
don't.
gives a shit.
Look, I'm not taking a strong stance on this either way, but like, I'm not going to dismiss it as nothing either. That'd be stupid. The article that we're talking about said he typically wakes up at 6 a.m. after getting 2 hours of sleep. That matters. I don't care about, like, you guys are referencing Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, AI, all-time grades. DA isn't that. DA is the guy who is trying to convince people that he's worth max money, and that's not how you do it.
So DA
Like,
goes
sleep
to
matters.
practice at 6 o'clock in the morning and then comes back. He can't sleep during the day?
It didn't say anything in the report
Good.
about
Of
that.
course
Maybe
it didn't, because
happens.
nobody asked him
But
what his
that
day-to-day
happens,
routine
maybe
is.
it doesn't, but to dismiss it as nothing is fucking stupid.
It's absolutely nothing.
It's not.
Hold on.
It's not.
He's
Getting
playing
2
video
hours
games
of
at 2
sleep.
o'clock in the morning. Who
2 hours of
cares?
sleep is not nothing.
Okay, but let me say this. DA is a newborn there. He's getting 2 hours of sleep regardless when you're a first-time newborn father. I'm
Get
gonna
rid of
tell
the
you that.
kids, Espo.
Yeah,
Get rid of the kids.
Can't have kids. He's
No.
only
Can't have
getting
kids.
2
No,
hours
No,
of sleep.
you guys
have
are being
kids.
irresponsible because the report said it laid out his day as far as when he spends time with his son, and it made it seem very much like his girlfriend does like the heavy lifting in terms of his sleep schedule. He's staying up late because he said he has a hard time sleeping after long games, and I'm not going to minimize that mental health aspect of it because the story did a really good job going into how video games were therapeutic for him coming to the States, not knowing anybody. And when he didn't have that ability to play with his community back home, he felt depression and anxiety. And so I don't want to completely dismiss, his relationship with video games as something like, oh, he's a bum. He's just another kid who plays video games till late. But I'm not going to say it's not nothing that he's staying up getting 2 hours of sleep. You need sleep as an NBA player, as a professional athlete, as a human being. Like when you don't get enough sleep, there's scientific studies on it. It's akin to being drunk. And I'm not saying the guy is out there being irresponsible playing his NBA career drunk, but like 2 hours of sleep is not a lot. So I'm not going to say it's not nothing.
The
Again,
entire NBA played high on cocaine throughout the 80s.
And look how well that fucking went for him. That's
it was
great.
the best. It was the
best era ever.
decade ever.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to drag him because he plays
Are
video
you
games.
kidding?
Because again, like we're not there, we're not in the house 24/7 to know exactly what his routine is. Maybe he does come home from practice and gets 3 or 4 more hours of sleep before he goes to a game, and he feels fresh and he's ready to go. Like I'm not going to sit there and bag on something that it's like these people are reaching for things to really bag on DA about, and that's where I draw the line. I'm like, listen, man, like I guarantee you 50% of the NBA is out past 2 o'clock in the morning on most nights. Like dudes, when they come here fucking visiting Arizona, they go to Old Town
That's why we
till 2 or 3
always
o'clock in
say
the morning.
Scottsdale's undefeated.
All the time.
Yeah,
like
except
it
for that
doesn't
decade it
matter.
wasn't.
Like it just doesn't like it just
I'm
not going
I'm
to put
not
so much
saying-
stock into this because I just feel like
And I'm
it's
not
just
doing
people
that.
looking for things to attack him on when there's a lot of other guys that do the same thing.
Right. And I am not taking a strong stance on this. I am just saying it's not nothing. I'm saying if you're talking about giving a guy a max contract, little shit like that could matter. And it gives us a little bit of insight into who he is and what he's about. And I think that matters in a conversation as far as whether he's worth the max. That's all I'm saying. I'm not using it as an excuse to rip him down because if he is getting 2 hours of sleep and still playing like that, that's pretty fucking incredible. But like, it's not nothing.
Let me ask this. If we weren't talking about a max, we were talking 120 million, a little more than the Mikal got, but I still think we have people so entrenched on either side of this. That there is just hate or love that's so blind on both sides that I don't think it's the max that's the problem here. I think it's the individual that people are so damn stuck on. Unless he was going to take $5 million a year, everybody go, yeah, that makes sense. But I don't think.
I think we've gotten to a point in society right now where we are willing to find any little thing to attack people on. Look, Devin Booker over the weekend, he's like, dude, what the hell's up with all this toxic energy? Like, people are upset about game 7, or they're upset about the last 2 games Devin played, or they're upset about Chris Paul, or they're upset about DA or Bridges disappearing. Like, and they're just trying to find all these reasons to absolutely hate on people. It's not unlike any other fan base either. Like, all the fan bases give hell to all the players. Like, it's just something that happens. I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of all the toxicity. Like, dude, did you play or did you not? Did you play good or did you not? Devin Booker might not have played until 2 o'clock in the morning, but he sure didn't show up for game 6 or 7. At least DA showed up for the game 6. But then Devin Booker showed up in other games and DA didn't show up. Like, we can go all day long about excuses and all, but you know what? They all sound like assholes. They all fucking stink. I don't care about any of that shit. Just play. If you play bad, you played bad, and you move on. Is your play on the court worth a max contract or is it not? That's the debate that we should be having, not did he play video games till 2 o'clock in the morning? Is Devin Booker's relationship with Kendall Jenner a distraction? And all this other dumb shit that keeps going around. Like, I don't give a shit about any of it.
That's what comes with missing expectations. That's just the way this world is if a team, a person misses what they were supposed to achieve, we've got to dig into everything to find that burning answer as to why. Mm-hmm. I find it another story that I just remembered. Shaq used to ship a NBA Jam arcade cabinet with him to every city they traveled to, and they'd play in his hotel room for hours and hours and stuff. Like, I don't think this is a new problem. Lack of sleep is not a new problem in the NBA. Guys choosing to do things other than being in the gym 24/7, not a new thing in the NBA. I think what's new is the level of scrutiny that everybody goes through now, because there's 24-hour news cycles and Twitter and
because people
and
know
everything.
About it in real time.
Yes.
Right. All right, so we have 2 super chats. One from Icon, thank you, said, DA can't set picks 30 feet from the basket if he plays video games. Good question. And then Libertarian said the real problem is the timing of this article. And I agree with you 100%. Because had this article come out in the middle of the summer, not really close to the playoff situation at all, nobody would be batting an eye about it. And I also have a question, because I didn't read the article in its entirety. Was this a game day schedule or was this an off day schedule?
So the reporting, or at least the interview with DA, was probably on April 4th, because in the article it mentioned before his upcoming game against the Lakers, which was on April 5th, and it said something like ahead of the playoff run. The timing of the release of the article was much later. It didn't drop until, I think, after game 5 of the second round series. Yeah, so the timing couldn't have been worse as far as when they dropped that article. Mm-hmm. And I think that has played into kind of the hysteria over it. And again, I don't want to come off like I'm taking a strong stance on oh, DA plays video games, he's a hack, like he's never going to be a max guy. My thing is just like, it does matter a little bit. Sleep it is matters. Something.
But the question, the question I have is, if he's talking about playing video games on an off day, like late at night on an off day, what's the big deal? Like, yeah, if you're staying up till 2 a.m. and you wake up at 6 or whatever, it may be
how often do they get
game,
off days though?
But if it's like after a game that he's playing video games to wake up the next day to go to practice, listen, I know there's comments in the chat being like, get in the gym, watch film. There's only so much of that an actual human being can do each day.
Right.
If you need an outlet for something for you to keep your mind busy or just to relax to play with, this is fine.
Right.
It's not a big deal. If he's going to bed every single day, the entire season that late and only getting 2 hours of sleep. But here's the thing with Deandre Ayton, he's so charismatic and just like freely speaks that he could say it as if this is something he does on a regular basis, and it realistically only be a handful of times, maybe a week or something, when he doesn't, not the night before a game. Like, we all know how these articles are spun, purposely or not, sometimes it makes it sound worse than it actually really is. It also has to do with the way that we perceive things. We could read that article and be like, oh my God, DA never focuses. This is why he's this way. Or we could read the article and be like, yeah, I mean, my kid does the same thing every once in a while. He's still fine in school. It's not a big deal.
Well, and it also has to do with, and we can all attest to this. We've written pieces. I mean, it matters what follow-up question you ask and how you position it in a piece too, because there's context that probably isn't there as well, or there is, but it's tough to tell sometimes what the full picture is, because you're trying to make a lead that grabs people, gets them to read further into it, and this did. I mean, that was
and
what
I'm
you do in a
not saying that
feature.
was the intention of the author of this piece, but sometimes, like I said, unintentionally or not, it can create that type of conversation around something.
It's entirely possible, but the line is literally verbatim. Ayton typically wakes up at 6 a.m. after getting 2 hours of sleep. Like, it's kind of hard to get that wrong or to just include that as a throwaway line. Like, I don't know.
So next question. If you were placing bets on where DA lands next season on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, where would you put your money if you were allowed to make a bet like this?
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
It's not the deal I want. It's not the place I want him to be, but that's the one that I just get a feeling would be the one that checks all the boxes for everybody involved.
What you guys thinking?
I still think it's Phoenix. Like, they still.
Oh, could we choose Phoenix? I thought it was outside. Was it outside, or could we choose Phoenix?
That's a good question.
I think stays.
Let's vote. Let's just put, because we all agree Phoenix should be the place.
Yeah.
We've already said that 180 times on this podcast over the last handful of weeks.
Mhm.
So let's pick places that are not Phoenix, with the understanding that
I
we
don't
all
want to
think
play this
Phoenix
game,
is.
Lindsay.
You're playing this
I
game,
don't want.
Saul.
Okay, he's going to Shanghai.
Oh, no, not Shanghai.
What is he? I figured. What's his face? Beasley. No, Beasley just
That's
signed with
exciting
them.
for
Oh,
him,
did he
though.
too?
Yeah, that's good for him.
Yeah,
It's
I love
exciting
that.
It is.
I'm happy for him.
Okay.
Can we make fun of Jimmer? Is that okay?
You can make fun of both of them as far as I'm concerned. The dude flamed out, but good for him. Gets to take $1 million from somewhere else.
I would agree with Espo. I'd say San Antonio would make the most sense, probably, if he's not in Phoenix, which, again, I think he will be.
Detroit. I don't want him to hurt us.
I don't think the odds would probably be really good for this, because it probably won't happen. Even though there's talks about it. Could you imagine if he winds up in Dallas?
No, never happened.
But I bet you the odds would be great on that. A $5 bet would get you a lot of payout.
How in your right mind would you trade him to Dallas?
I'm just saying.
If he went to San Antonio,
I'm just saying.
like I said it last time we were talking about this. If he goes to San Antonio, you just know it's all going to turn around, and he's going to be that dude, and we're all going to be like, fuck.
He's David Robinson
all over
for
again.
Pop. By the way, I do know one thing though. If I went to the app to place this bet, I'd be using that code PHNX.
That's right. And you guys can use that same code right now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code PHNX. Make any $5 bet during the NBA Finals and get $150 in free bets instantly. Once again, that is promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. We have a super chat from Elon. Thank you, Elon. Said Elon here. At least he's not playing Fortnite. I take major offense to that.
Yeah,
Elon,
Lindsay's a big Fortnite.
I love Fortnite. So
yeah, but Lindsay doesn't have to
kick
get
him
up
out
at
of
6.
the chat.
Doesn't have to
Shane.
get up
Kick
at
him
6 a.m. She gets up at noon, so it works out all right.
Oh, I wish I could get up at noon every single day. That'd be lovely. All right, next topic. Mikal Bridges. This also came out this weekend. He opened up about their second round exit at the hands of the Dallas Mavericks on the Old Man and the Three podcast with JJ Redick. We've got a clip for you guys from that show, but if you haven't listened to it, highly recommend.
What happened? What happened in the Dallas series?
I don't know. It was up, and then it was a good series. Like, I think when we went up 3-2, I think we had a feeling we all thought we was going to win in Dallas. And then, once they won, it kind of like, now it's like, even though it's home advantage, it's like you know better than me, like Game 7 is just like now it's up for grabs. Like I don't think you even feel the home court advantage as much because they're so confident. And now it's like there's really nothing to lose, and they're just gonna go out and just play the way they've been playing. And it got real scary. I remember I just looked up. I just felt they were just scoring every time, and just goddamn Theo and all of them. I could hear them. I could just hear them every time they score, and just the energy every single time. And we're not scoring that much, like at all. I just look up. I just see the score. I'm like, man, going to half down 30 is just ridiculous. And now it's just like coming back out. Like you gotta start off hot, like out the jump street the third. Like if not, then you really have no chance. And then, man, we couldn't even score coming out, and they just kept going. Everybody had their rhythm, and I mean, credit to them, man. Everybody played really well. But yeah, it's just didn't think that would happen. Never did think.
So let me ask you guys for the third time today. Y'all right?
I'm fine with this.
I'm not mad at it at all.
I feel like he's just as confused as the rest of us as to how Game 7 happened.
You know, he talked about how he basically had never lost to the Mavs in his entire career. And then they felt like they owned him. And then they beat him 2 times easily. But my thing is after Game 4, you probably should have known, like, okay, this is different. This is different. They found something that's working. And that's when the mode should have changed overall for the team. But for whatever reason, they were way they were overconfident. They were overconfident, and they didn't feel that threat. And Game 5 certainly didn't help because it was a blowout too. If Game 5 had been a close game, I think they win that game in Game 6 in Dallas because they know, like, we're right here. Yeah. But because that didn't happen, and they went to Dallas and they were like, oh, we should easily knock these dudes off. And then they got mollywopped again. Oh man, it's so frustrating. Sometimes there's just no explanation. A team just doesn't show up, and they just don't have it. And another team is hot at the right time. It's happened a lot of times in sports where a team just gets into a good groove and they pick the wrong team at the wrong time.
Well, Mikal basically admitted they got happy on the farm. I mean, that's what that whole thing is, oh, well, we beat them almost every time in my career and we were surprised. Well, that means you got happy. You got too comfortable in who you are and just thought, hey, we'll turn it on at any point. And they got kicked in the teeth because they thought that way.
Yeah, it did seem, and we've talked about just kind of the overconfidence that extended to everything as far as, Monty's faith in his guys turning it around, or just every aspect of this series was, okay, the Suns have been here. They've done this before. They're going to do it again. And I think that they got away from the things that allowed them to do those things time and time again. I don't mind the just amount of honesty in the interview. I think it's going to bother a lot of Suns fans, and I understand why, because like you said, he seems just as unable to answer these questions as we've been able to for the last few weeks. It's something that I don't think we'll ever fully understand the extent of unless reports come out later of what exactly went on behind the scenes, if anything did happen. But yeah, I mean, he went on to say that Game 7 was for sure embarrassing. Every time that we talk about a Game 7, they're going to mention the Suns now. And that sucks. But I do appreciate just kind of how honest he was about it, even if it's not what we want to hear right now.
The one thing I did take away from that interview was that it didn't seem to me, at least from Mikal's position, that there was any like strife going on behind the scenes. Like he didn't give any illusion that maybe something like people were having beef or anything like that. It felt like it was just one of those things where, again, they just ran into the wrong team at the wrong time and they didn't have answers and they thought that their shit didn't stink, and then it stunk up the whole fucking building.
Well, when I watched this video on YouTube, I actually scrolled through the comments and I pulled 2 for us to kind of chat about. And there was one kind of similar to what you had just mentioned from Vincent. They said, I love these interviews, but I usually leave frustrated because JJ can't ask the really tough questions like, quote, Game 7, where we're booking CP. Are you mad at them? How were they in the locker room? And one, these are all like, a lot of this is rumors, right? There's different quote unquote sources who are saying that there was tension or whatever in the locker room, but it's all technically a rumor still. Nothing is completely solid evidence that there was something really bad going on. And then two, JJ's not going to ask Mikal something like that, because there's a respect from an athlete to an athlete that you don't cause drama like that is not going to do any benefit to you or your team. And if he did ask Mikal something like that, I would hope Mikal would sidestep the question, because it's not necessarily something that is positive for him to be sharing.
Draymond would ask that question.
But see, JJ's also CP3's guy,
Yeah.
right? So he's never going to put
Yeah.
Mikal.
Well, I would hope Draymond would ask CP3 directly to his face
Oh, he
instead
would.
of
Yeah,
asking
he would.
Well, that's what I'm
He
saying.
would.
Well, I
Like,
think
it's
JJ
one
would
thing,
too.
Yeah, it's
If-
one thing to ask the actual person about what happened. It's another thing to ask somebody about somebody else. That's where like the drama starts.
The only, I won't even get into that. That takes us backwards. I'm not going to go there.
It's a bad question either way, because you're either getting a sidestep non-answer, or you are being incendiary and starting something that may not have even, and then people are going to read the one little block quote that emerges from
Exactly.
a lengthy interview, and they're going to run with that instead of listening to the actual audio.
I don't think there's anything wrong with asking the tough question. And I felt like he asked Mikal point blank about himself.
Yeah.
I agree asking, was it CP3's fault, or wow, Devin Booker didn't really show up? Is his relationship screwed up? There's no, that's shit stirring. That's not, but asking directly, like if he has CP3 there and he doesn't ask him directly at some point, then that's problematic. But this is he handled it the way he should have in this interview, JJ did. And you got a very honest and I felt raw answer from Mikal as well. When I look at all this, what I think really, is going on here is twofold, right? They reversed the process in getting to the finals. What happened this year is usually what happens to a team before they take that leap to the finals, and nobody says crap about it because, you went from out of the playoffs to the second round and it didn't go well. You took your lumps. We'll come back next year. Then you make the finals. It's a whole different thing, right? But now it happened the way it did, and you have a 37-year-old CP3, and all of a sudden it feels like a pressure cooker for it. That, and I don't think not having answers, if it had been the first time you were in the playoffs, anybody would have said anything. It's lack of experience. Now they have some of it. I think that's a big part of why everybody's scrambling to try to figure out what happened and why it feels so weird.
Well, and everyone wants a reason. They want to point to something and be like, that's what it was. Because when you have a tangible reason, it feels better.
Yeah.
It just
We're
feels
never going
better.
to have a tangible reason. It's not going to happen.
Right. So the other comment that really stood out to me was from Sam, and they said, Mikal really talks about how his crowd affects the team versus the opposing crowd affects the team. It's such a vulnerable thing to say as a professional athlete, but it really helps us to understand what it all really is about. Thanks, Mikal. And that was in reference to his comment saying that sometimes when he's playing at home, like in the playoffs, and you could hear the entire crowd audibly sigh when a shot wouldn't fall in, that was hard to stomach. It was one thing. It's one thing to hear the opposing crowd cheer when your shot misses, because that adds fuel to your fire of like, okay, bet I'll get it next time. But when the people that you love and care about and you're playing for sigh collectively, like that hurts.
Especially in key points of the game. Like I don't think the sighs are really as pronounced when it's a close game or you have a chance, right? But when the crowd can feel it slipping away, like in Game 7, and they're 10 points down, and you take a big shot, it's like we just need that bucket to get us back on track, and the players can sense it, and I think that's when they start to notice it, is when they can sense that things might be getting out of hand or slipping away from them themselves. That's when they start to notice it. So, like, I don't know about you guys playing at sporting events or anything like that, but never really noticed the crowd at all, like, until it got really bad. Then you notice everything.
Yeah.
Having a home crowd for Game 7 is either a huge advantage if you get off to the right start, or it can be a very worrisome thing, because you can feel that tenseness. And we talked about it right after the show. I had said, like, after Luka hit his first 3 shots and the Suns had missed their first however many, you could feel people tensing up. Like the players, the crowd, everybody was like, oh man, this could actually happen, instead of them coming out on a 10-0 run or something. And that's not to excuse their performance in any way, shape, or form. You've got to be mentally tougher than that. But I do think it kind of spoke to where their mentality was at the time. They thought they were going to win game 6. And when they got smacked in the mouth again, anything can happen in a game 7. The Mavs came out free, playing with nothing to lose. The Suns came out tight, everything to lose, 64-win season on the line, all those expectations from making the finals last year, 54 years as a franchise without winning a title. They had all of that, and they felt it, and they played like it. And I was watching the game back the other day, and like,
there's masochist.
I know. There's a point where they're down 15-7, and I think Landry Shamet hits a 3, and it felt like a collective sigh of relief, but it still felt like we are drowning here. And they were only down 5 in the first quarter, and then it just ballooned from there. But everything in those first 6 to 8 minutes felt like the end of the world.
I don't think Suns fans should take offense to what he said.
I don't think it was meant to be an excuse either. I think it was just insight into the feeling.
Like, again, we were talking about people always looking for something. Like, I think there are some people out there like, oh, really? He's going to blame the crowd?
Right.
Like, no, he's a human being, and he noticed these things in that game because he's a human. Like, he felt the emotion. He felt the crowd. He wanted it as bad as the crowd did, and he could feel that in the energy in the building, much the same as last year when things were really going well, and how the players picked up off the energy and they took it to another level. You know, like the freaking Torrey Craig dunk, and how the Suns just took off from there. Like, it goes both ways, and so I appreciate Mikal saying what he said, and that honesty and that vulnerability is actually very impressive.
We've said this before in the show, but we want these guys to be vulnerable, to be honest, to be open. And then when they are, in a lot of cases, it bites them in the ass because you get this other side of the crowd. They're like, oh, he's blaming us. No, he's not blaming you. And what I was surprised he didn't say it. What I actually think was probably tougher for those guys was as quiet as it got, when the sighs stopped, when the boos stopped, and you basically got silence from your own crowd. Like, that's got to be the toughest, because apathy is the last thing you want. Like, hate isn't what you should worry about. It's apathy when nobody cares about you at that point. That's when things are problematic.
I don't know if your parents ever told you this, but they're like, hey, you don't have to worry about when I'm yelling at you. It's when I stop yelling at you.
Yeah, exactly.
You should be worried, because that means, I'm done with you, son.
Yikes. Not a big fan of that one. I have something really important to tell you guys about. And this is Athletic Greens.
Oh, I thought all of a sudden we had some breaking news.
This is breaking news because this is a no-brainer product that you should incorporate into your everyday life.
Yeah.
Espo can vouch for that.
If DA were doing this after 2 hours of sleep, he'd have some energy.
It'd be no big deal. It would literally be nothing.
It'd be like, hey, I stayed up until 6 a.m. and got up at 6 a.m.
But you know what?
How do you know
Athletic
he
Greens
didn't?
on my
I don't
side.
know.
Because you know what? Athletic Greens, it supports better sleep quality and recovery. So boom.
So 2 hours is equal to 8. We're good.
Look at that.
Exactly.
Look at, just pop that pouch. You're good to go. Don't worry about it.
It also has over
Pop that
7,000
pouch.
5-star reviews.
Pop the pouch.
And the
He
best
said,
part,
pop that pouch.
That travel pouch. You go,
Pop,
pour it
pop
in
that
your
pouch.
thing, drink
the
that up.
best part is it costs you less than $3 a day and you're investing in your health.
DA doesn't have to worry about that. $3 a day is nothing to a guy that's about to get a
But to
max
all of us,
from San Antonio.
That's something for sure. And to make it easy, our friends at Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase.
Pop that pack.
Pop that pack. All you have to
You said
do,
pop that pouch.
Pop that pouch. Pop that pack. Whatever it takes. Get that Athletic Greens in you.
all you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/suns. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/suns to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And take advantage of that offer too, because you're going to get the freebies with that one. So
Yes, you are.
definitely check it out, athleticgreens.com. We have another super chat from Logan. They asked, would you guys take Jalen Brunson, a decent point guard?
For what?
I don't know. That was just the only question.
For DA? No.
As a backup point guard to Chris Paul? Yeah, of course.
Not as a
Not
sign
for-
and trade for Deandre Ayton? No. But thanks.
Well, there you go. Gerald, how do you feel?
I mean, it'd have to be a double sign and trade. I don't even want to do the math right now. That's too much math right now.
We
I
need
love
to see a double sign and trade.
Jalen Brunson that'd be really hard. Jalen Brunson would be great, but yeah, as a return for a DA sign and trade, the math is tough there, and they're gonna re-sign him, or the Knicks are gonna sign him because they hired his dad.
His dad.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson's going to the Knicks.
Yeah.
So Sadat, you might want to cry.
I think a good podcast name is the double sign and trade.
The double sign and trade.
Sheesh. That seems like there's a lot of math in that podcast. I don't know about that one. All right, guys, we have one screenshot today presented by Arizona Department of Health Services. And as a reminder, we want you all to stay safe and healthy. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also now eligible for a booster. Visit azhealth.gov/find vaccine for a location near you. So this is a tweet from Barry M. Bloom, and he tweeted out a few days ago, quote, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, in a sidebar conversation after his press conference, said the Suns' investigation involving owner Robert Sarver is highly complex, quote, but should be resolved shortly, end quote. And then I also got a text this morning from a friend of mine who said, hey, Bill Simmons on his podcast today mentioned that this investigation should be wrapped up in the next few weeks. So
why do you do this? When you read your
I just talk with my hands.
What?
So we will open it up.
What he's won.
Hold on a second. What else happens in about 2 weeks? The end of the finals. Who would have guessed that information about an investigation into an owner would come after the completion of the season?
It's unbelievable.
Amazing.
I'm not even going to
I'm
do
going
it.
to start poking fun at you. Look, just wait.
There's no vaccine against stupid comments, and that it sounds like we're about to find out how much trouble Robert Sarver's comments are going to get him in and the organization in. We're going to find out soon, and this could dramatically change everything about the offseason depending on how it plays out. Either way.
Go ahead, Gerald.
I'm fascinated by this. I'm excited to finally get some closure on this, and hopefully it's closure that we all kind of need in this situation.
I feel like it's complex, and that statement to me tells me that this is not going to be the easy just yank him out of his position move that I think a lot of people are looking for. I don't know.
That could be why it's complex, though, is because pulling an owner out of his team isn't as easy.
You need to have, again, we talked about this before. There's going to have to be some concrete evidence to yank an owner. If they don't have concrete evidence and it's just, for lack of a better word, hearsay, then it's just nothing's going to happen.
And Barry M. Bloom also responded to somebody on Twitter saying that they had interviewed over 100 female former employees as part of this, which leads me to believe maybe they didn't find anything, on the racist side that was very well focused on, but maybe it's the sexism side that does them in based on how many interviews that they conducted with former female employees. And that was kind of the hint that he was saying. Now, I don't know how true it is, but I
could see a scenario where, sometimes in college when there's some violations and maybe they can't pin it on the head coach, but they say they pin lack of institutional control. I could see a scenario where maybe they don't have anything concrete, but still enough chatter that would make them feel like it's a lack of institutional control, and they hammer not only Sarver, but maybe even the Suns as an organization overall. Like, I could see a scenario like that.
My prediction is with no sourcing. But what I think is going to happen is he's going to be removed as the managing general partner. They will name somebody else, and there may be some ban of his involvement in things. That would not shock me as the move that's coming. Maybe they don't fully remove him from his ownership stake, which I think is a little over 30% of the team, but they may move him out of that leadership and controlling of the organization because of what you're saying, like a lack of institutional control.
Listen, I feel like the stain that has been left on this organization at the hands of Robert Sarver it's time for them to clean house. Like, I really do. I feel like it's time to remove him and start fresh, because whether you like it or not, it's still a bad look for the NBA when you have these kind of things pop up like this. And they've happened too frequent in this organization. And when you hurt people the way that a lot of people have been hurt, I think you need to pay a price for that. And so I've always been on board about taking him out because it's time.
Det Nibble in the chat says the Mavs had a mess a few years ago, and it didn't even touch Cuban. It was 2 words why it didn't touch Cuban: plausible deniability. It was that whole investigation was other people in the organization they were looking at. This is specifically directed at Sarver based on accusations or reporting based around Sarver. That's totally the difference here. It's not, you can't plausibly deny when the investigation is about you. So.
And that's also kind of related to what Cesar Morales asked in the chat. Honest question: how does the precedent from the Clippers former owner situation stack up here? I mean, can you really out Sarver if it's less egregious than Sterling? The thing with Sterling was they had the videotape and it leaked, and everybody heard it, and it was visceral, and you can't deny that that's his voice on the although I think they tried. But with this, it's not. It's a lot of accounts, and there's a lot of testimony against him. But you do, in that situation, you kind of need more concrete evidence.
The audio tapes is what set it all apart.
Right.
Without that, Sterling would still be an owner in the NBA.
That's not entirely true, though, because that's what made it move so quickly.
Yes.
Is because you had the audio tapes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't have done a year-long investigation the same way they are now and found the similar outcome.
True.
We're just guessing because of that's the situation that we've been through. But that doesn't mean that the NBA hasn't spent an entire year and is not going to make a decision that is something that is beneficial to the people who came forward.
But Sterling had been doing that for well over 3 decades. Like, they even reference it.
And Robert Sarver's have gone back for over a decade.
What I'm saying is now it's now coming to fruition. And with the Sterling thing, because of that audio tape that dropped, that's what started the whole investigation. But people knew that stuff was going on for years.
The difference is the time we live in now, right? And this isn't David Stern's NBA. This is Adam Silver's NBA. Mm-hmm. He set the precedent. And you're right, Lindsey. It moved at a breakneck speed because they had a tape, which is airtight evidence, so they knew they could do it. This investigation took as long as it has because they have to build a case if they're going to do anything. And just because we haven't heard anything doesn't mean there weren't emails uncovered or anything larger than that could be a smoking gun in the case.
Also, 2 other factors. I think because it involved Magic Johnson, who is widely seen as a beloved ambassador to the league, to the game, that made it a quicker timeline. And also the fact that it was going on during the playoffs when that first emerged, there was pressure to deal with that situation to try and get the focus to basketball. And I'm not saying that that's right, but I do think that those are 2 things that further contributed to how fast that situation was handled.
And the players putting pressure on the league too.
Right.
Like you can't take that out of the equation. They talked about boycotting a playoff game because of it at one point. Like, they had a lot of power in the situation as well.
All right, we'll keep you posted if anything else comes out regarding that situation. We do have another super chat from Code. Thank you, Code. But Code, I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you for this, Code. I really am. They said, lesson learned. Let's all be quiet when the Suns miss a shot because it might hurt the players' feelings and make them too scared to make a mistake. Code, come on.
Code, I promise you.
You know that wasn't a scapegoat for Mikal. If you watch the interview, you know he wasn't making an excuse.
Code, I promise you, and anybody else in the chat who's upset about the way that this season turned out, they care and it matters a lot more to them than it does to any of us.
And I can also guarantee you that they're not going to be in the gym for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, just stressing over this. Like, they are people,
right?
And I don't care what their salary is. They still need some time to themselves. And like, that's the thing that kills me about like the DA stuff and all this other stuff. It's like, oh, he's playing video games when he should be in the gym. I'm like, bro,
who's in the gym at 3 a.m.?
And when you have a bad day at work, do you just like stay at work for the whole next 16 hours trying to right that wrong? Like, no, you got to go, you got to get away for a little bit, reset, and come back. Like,
you mean y'all don't sleep in here?
These chairs are so
I've
uncomfortable.
considered it.
Yeah, we definitely wouldn't be sleeping.
No,
here.
it'd be the couch out. Like, yeah, look, some people want athletes to be robots. It's just not the case. Like, they're human beings. It's people need to blow off steam. But I get it that, being quiet and all that. I get the sarcasm, believe me.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, just be mad and tweet directly at them. They love that too.
God.
So that's another way.
Code, I will say I'm glad that you say it here and not at Mikal. I appreciate that because we can have a conversation about it, and this is sometimes a safe space.
It's hard. I think it's hard for people to understand. Like, listen, they're basketball players, they're athletes, and a lot of us envy that. Like, we wish we had the talent to be able to do what they do, and they get paid millions of dollars to do it, right? So we think that they've somehow won a lottery ticket and they should be grateful for it. And I don't look at it that way. I'm like, they're an employee just like anybody else. Yes, they get paid a lot of money and they have a lot of cool benefits, and it's probably dope as fuck to be them right now. But at the same time, that doesn't distract, that doesn't take away from the real life scenarios that they go through on a day-to-day basis. They work hard, they put in their 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day of work, and they move about their life. And there's a lot more pressure on them because, listen, there's not 18,000 people sitting on the outside of this door watching us do our post-game show and booing every time we screw up or cheering every time we make something great. Like, there's not
20,000.
But that's what they have, and they're under the public eye so much so that I would almost even wager to say that they deserve more time away from that space than us, because they have to deal with it so much. The hate they get, the vitriol that they receive, it's on a whole nother level. And until you're in those shoes, you have no idea.
Right. It's the mental strain. It's the emotional strain. It's the physical strain
absolutely.
too. Like, if we go on a vacation for the summer and come back, nobody's going to be pointing at me like, wow, Gerald, you got fat over the summer. Are you going to be able to do your job? Well,
damn, Linz.
Apparently Lindsey.
Hey,
I'm gonna go after all
fat shaming.
I'm not saying about that. Not that specifically. I piped in and then said I am before he went to that specific example. I was just saying I'm going to go after all three of you once you get back from vacation.
I don't take vacations, Linz.
But Code, that's a lie. Code did say, he followed up and said, I saw Mikal post a pic of him playing with his dogs and it frustrated me, so maybe you guys are right. It's okay. You're just still in the anger part of the stages of grief, and that's okay. You'll eventually move on to whatever the next one is, and things will become a little bit easier.
Damn it, Mikal should neglect his dogs and be in the gym.
Everybody has to go through all the stages of grief, and we don't get to determine what timeline that happens. So
you guys grieve however you need. If you want to be angry all summer, be angry all summer.
I don't recommend it, though, because then you're going to miss out on a lot of fun things of the summer. But if you need some more time, it's okay.
Was it hate leads to fear, fear leads to, or wait, how's it go?
Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering.
Yep. Don't do that to yourself.
Listen to Yoda.
Y'all ready to close the show with a little ad read roulette?
Ready for this?
We all
That's what Mikal's talking about. That felt horrible. All right, let's
spin that wheel. Who's it going to be?
Who is it?
Yeah! I'm ready for some ad roulette now.
Let's find out what Lindsey has to read the OG's ad.
I'm going to let the air out of
today.
Jacob's tire.
Emma, we can't read this, so we need you to read it for us.
Surfer, dude.
Yeah, dude, hang 10.
Let's go, bro.
Cowabunga.
Bros.
Bra.
I found about bros.
What?
You know what I heard about the other day?
What?
Bruh, there's this brand. Bruh, it's called OGs. Let me just tell you, my guy, they're so epic. It's like when you catch a nar wave, bro, and you ride it all the way through.
Nar.
OGs is legit, bruh.
What?
Why is Espo breathing like this? In
What?
the He's like,
I feel so dumb right now.
Hey,
What the hell is going on?
server ain't dumb.
You gotta talk.
Oh, my heart is racing. This is such an awkward one. But, bruh,
Can I
let me
take one
just
and wax
tell
my
you.
board?
if you want to try these amazingly delicious variety of flavors, my guy, that OG's Brands has to offer, just go to ogsbrands.com.
Gnarly.
OGEEZ.
Whoa.
Brands.com, bruh, to find an OG's near you.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Hang 10.
Hang 10, bro.
10 milligrams, that is.
That was terrible.
That was a sweet ad read, bro.
Oh my goodness.
Is that? I don't think surfers actually sound like that in real life. I think that's like a sitcom, like
Yeah,
TV.
it's
very,
fine.
very aggressive.
That's
so
who I
no
keep
shade to
thinking
surfers.
That's who I keep thinking of, Javier Ayala in the chat, like the
What?
turtle in Finding Nemo. And we were like, whoa. And
Yeah,
then
that
we were
was
like,
my
whoa.
stoner
And then we
read.
were like, whoa.
Oh, I wish I would have thought about that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. Good luck with your stages of grief as they continue along in the process. We'll see you guys later this week. We'll have a show for you tomorrow. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter at Lindsey Smith AZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourguet. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
Whoa, dude. Ahoy, hoy.
Hey yo, my lifestyle is retro. Tell the Phoenix Metro. Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsey, Gerald, Espo. Saul pass the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G, no plan B.